Hey guys, this is going to be my quick non-spoiler review of The Woman in the Window, which is a new Netflix movie released this week. Netflix and 20th Century Fox, so quite a bit of star power behind this one. And it's a new thriller with Amy Adams in the lead role. It's from the director Joe Wright, who in the past has done films such as Hannah and Atonement, and more recently he had Oscar success with The Darkest Hour. So some major names behind it, including on a very strong cast. And for anyone who knows anything about Hitchcock movies, and especially Rear Window, they're going to know that we're in this sort of territory very early on from this film. In fact, I think it's the opening shot of the film is like an image of Rear Window on the TV. So not very subtle in that regard. But anyway, the setup of the plot is that Amy Adams plays a woman who's recently come out of she's recently divorced. She lives on her own in this department. She has a character played by Wyatt Russell, who's like a lodger, lives downstairs. He's the only one who she really has regular contact with, apart from her therapist. And sort of, she has a shut-in condition, very, psychologically intense, fragile. So she sees this therapist regularly, played by Tracy Letts, and she takes an interest in this new family that live across the road or the street, so very British there. And as in with James Stewart in Rear Window, she takes photographs of them. She meets the son at one point and meets what she believes at the time to be the mother, played by Julianne Moore. Gary Oldman plays the father of the family, and she starts witnessing weird activities. And one day she seems to witness the wife being killed, the Julianne Moore character being killed, and so this draws her attention to the family even more, very intensely. She tries to, get the police involved, and the sort of big turn, which isn't a spoiler because it's in the setup of the film, is that this other woman appears, because Gary Oldman, his character, starts claiming you've never met my wife in your life, and the son even starts backing up that story that then they've never met. But this other woman, played by Jennifer Jason Leigh, suddenly appears, who they claim that's my wife, that's the mother, basically, not the Julianne Moore character. So uh, it starts, you know, drawing suspicion on, did she imagine this because of a psychological state? So that's the sale. We get a very psychological Rear Window style film. And the trailer for this made it look really bad, really all over the place, very generic, very on the nose, and just a mess of a plot, which is very sort of cliched. Now, in reality, it's not as bad as that. I think it's watchable at least for the first sort of hour, for the first half of it. I think for fans of this sort of thriller, there are things to get out of it. The main thing it has going for it is the Amy Adams in the lead role, because I think she does make you at least care in the character and makes you interested in what's going on. And there's enough intrigue set up in the first half to sort of have you interested, even though it's a bit clunky. There's some clunky dialogue, even though it sort of does hit you over the head a bit with what it's doing in terms of the referencing. And Amy Adams is very good as always, so she sort of keeps you involved at least. I think one thing is it's always in the back of your mind, and again, I'm not going to give away any spoilers really, but because of her psychological state and the way things play out, it's always in the back of your mind that she could at least be imagining some of this. But in any case, I was sort of at least interested in what was going to happen for about half of the movie, but in the second half it really takes a nosedive. When things escalate, it really becomes very silly indeed, very ropey. Everything's over the top and played up to the hill. Um, Again, because of the inference and stuff, it just ends up falling completely flat and ended up being this very standard like Hitchcock rip-off, which does nothing that special or surprising, not anything that you wouldn't imagine. And the twists don't really work for me. The twists just fell flat. One of them doesn't really surprise me given what I've said previously. The other one didn't really interest me. It felt a bit too silly and a bit too far-fetched, but it does end up being very generic in the second half, very sort of predictable and over the top. I mean, the big sort of end of it, without talking about it, becomes this very over the top sort of action type scene, which is just. And I think the main problem maybe is that Joe Wright as a director just doesn't have the style. He just doesn't have the subtlety to really pull off this sort of film and make it like really engaging and gripping. I think the script is part of the problem because, as I said, things escalate in the second half and it just becomes very silly and predictable and not very interested. I mean, once it shows its hand isn't very interesting. But I also think the director is a bit too just mundane and middle of the road to really pull this off. You know, you can see that he's clearly here hitting some of the big visual cues, but not doing anything new or that exciting with them. And the other thing to maybe recommend it is Gary Oldman because his hammy performance and over the top sort of sinister is actually quite entertaining. I think it's almost like he knows he's not in a great movie, so he's just going to play up that part and have fun with it. So I can't really fault him for that. He is quite entertaining. Amy Adams is good, but ultimately she's wasted. And you've got a good supporting cast as well, but they're only in it here and there, and they're not really given that much to do. So it ends up being a very mediocre and forgettable movie, quite silly as well, as I said. So overall, I'd say it's mediocre. It at least has something for the first hour if you enjoy this sort of thing, but not great overall. Could have been so much better. And as I said, very silly. I guess I'll go 5.5. That's my overall feelings on it. So that's The Woman in the Window, the new Netflix movie that's out this week. If you agree with my thoughts, let me know. If you disagree, please tell me why. Did you enjoy it more than me? And I'll be back soon with another movie review. My next movie to review will be Wrong Turn, the original Wrong Turn from 2003, and that's because I'm starting the Wrong Turn franchise. I'm going to review all of them on the channel and build my way up to the more recent like remake. But I will be starting, of course, with the original starring Eliza Dushku, which we watched on the stream at the weekend, so you can also find the stream up on the channel. But yeah, thanks for listening to this, and see you guys again soon.